a minor, 16-year-old. There was a video circled online. This was the young girl. I can call her a girl. She was a girl. She's in the hallway of her family's home, carrying under the stairs. What happened? She was found intoxicated. A family member got hold of the police, and in the scuffle, she said she made a quote unquote homophobic remark. She said that one of the policewomen looked like her lesbian nana, who the girl isn't homophobic. She loves her grandmother, who's in a same-sex relationship, what have you. But there was a scuffle, and the mum pointed out, look, my daughter has autism, doesn't like to be held, or what have you. And the police decided to arrest her for a homophobic remark. Now, that has since been, that whole arresting and all that has been nullified, I suspect, by and large, because the video was online and people could see for themselves what actually happened. But here's the thing, a lack of understanding about autism or people with neurodiversity, and certain things that they display being seen as lawlessness. And it made me think, how many people I'm just thinking of some of the extraditions that have happened with online stuff and hacking, what have you, actually have autism. And because there's a lack of understanding in the approach, they're criminalized rather than understood.
Yeah. Well, I think you know, Tricia, that I have some specialization in this area. So Professor Sir Simon Baron-Cohen, yes, that Baron-Cohen family, the kind of the father of modern autism study internationally. I mean, a professor professor at Cambridge and knighted. Well, he's somebody that I've had the privilege really of working with on two complex international cases in recent years. And yes, you're right. There is a really worrying overrepresentation, especially among computer hackers. In my capacity, kind of the work that I do in cybercrime, I'm talking about more than 50% of those types of cases. It doesn't just transpire that there are autism traits, but a full ASD, autism spectrum disorder diagnosis actually follows. And this has been a massive eye-opener for me. I have to say also, among young men who are seduced by extremist views, that obsession, often the ones who are the younger member of a group that might hopefully only before their court have thought about terrorism rather than done something further. Also a massive overrepresentation among the autistic. I have to say, I think the problem is training. You're right as far as the immediate, as far as the institutional response of police officers and courts. And the reason for that is, although in that example you've given, and it was sad, wasn't it? You're right. The media involvement, I often think that exposure leads a coward to hide. And that's what happened in that case. As soon as that video came out and the shock, immediately the police drop it like a bad habit, don't they? But let's not be banging on about the police negatively in this, because they do a difficult job and there is an absence of adequate training. I think the police are much better than they used to be. But where a personality was involved of a direct allegation against the police, often all the training goes out the window once the police officer's ego gets involved. And I have to say, I don't know the facts. I've got some suspicions about that in that regard. Let's just call it probable cause for now. There is, however, a good level of sympathy in the police. There's a lack of diagnosis among people that's difficult, who don't know they're autistic. I've actually, in some cases, had to have clients checked out who'd never been diagnosed before and discovered that Dr. Joseph was correct. And in fact, they qualified for a diagnosis. And it's good that we know this stuff, but I think there's a real inability to deal with it because there is that lack of training. I think quite horrifically, there is no real allowance that I can see given in the judicial system when people come before courts when it comes to sentencing. Certainly, where there is a discretion among the judges who are right-thinking, who've done some thinking or indeed training about this. Mm-hmm. Despite that, there is no official protocol for leniency or statutory reductions or some type of appreciation where somebody has committed the offence and should receive a non-custodial sentence, for example, because it's extenuating and they're at risk because, especially once police become involved, that exacerbates the situation often. In the example you gave, Tricia, those police were there at the mother's request because they were there to protect the child, protect the girl, not to make things worse. But you made should have been through that lens.
But you made a great point in that when police, whatever training you've had, when you get angry, when you feel personally insulted, if you have power, that's when you could overstep the line.
And it's difficult.
It takes a lot of training to put your personal feelings to one side and take a step back. Blimey, it's hard as a parent with teenagers, let alone anything else.